adventure possible. It is time for the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. I got something special for you this time. I am actually going to be sitting here visiting with a friend of mine for almost over 20 years now. And we used to go to church together, and then they moved down to Branson, Missouri, where he took a job, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But his name is Cort Stuart. His wife's name is Jill, and my wife actually came today, but they don't want to be on camera, so they're out in the front yard enjoying the day. We got about a 75-degree temperature day today, and we are going to sit out on his back deck overlooking his back 40, so to speak, and we're going to talk to Cort, because Cort has had, to say the least, some interesting things happen over the last couple of years. Would you,
yeah.
Was that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, yeah.
All right, so how long have you and Jill been married?
It'll be almost 31 years.
31
years.
in
May.
All right. Me and Mindy have been married 34 years, so we got about 3 on you.
Yeah.
But were you in the Marines when you got married?
I was. So Jill was my first girlfriend ever. In the 6th grade, and then we were always friends after that. I came home on leave when I came back from overseas when I was in the Marine Corps, and I'd been in about a year and a half, and we got back together and started dating, and one thing led to another, and so she moved out to California. So the last 2.5 years or so I was in the Marine Corps, she was out in California where we could be together.
And you were stationed in California?
I was stationed at Camp Pendleton California.
Okay, all right.
And then once I got out of the Marine Corps and we got back to Missouri, we got married right away.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Marine Corps. You guys know that if you've watched my videos, you've seen my salute to veterans and the veteran cemeteries and the things that I've done there. But let's talk a little bit about the Marine Corps. What did you do in the Marine Corps, if you could tell us?
Yeah.
And share a little bit of that story with us.
So I enlisted in the Marine Corps for the infantry, and I went to boot camp in San Diego, and then from San Diego I went to Camp Pendleton for the infantry training school.
Yep.
After I graduated the infantry training school, I was sent to the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, 2-5, which is at Pendleton, or they were when I was in, which was a really neat battalion. 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines is the most decorated battalion in the Marine Corps.
Okay. So
they have a storied history, really great battalion. And because of their, they had a really, kind of a complex mission where we were supposed to be able to do anything, anytime. And we got to go, because of that, I was trained in mountain warfare, jungle warfare, desert warfare, everything you can imagine. Amphibious warfare school down in the SEAL base at Coronado.
Okay.
So I got to go through just tons of schooling. After I was in for, about a year and a half, it's at the time that Jill moved out to California is when I was selected for the Stay Platoon, which is the sniper platoon.
Okay.
And got to go through sniper school, which she got to witness that process.
Yeah.
Graduated from sniper school, and then I was in Golf Company 2-5, just a infantry company to start with. Once I graduated sniper school, then I was in the sniper platoon, which is Stay Platoon.
Okay.
Still in 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, and finished my 4-year enlistment as a scout sniper.
Sniper. Yeah. Now, how long did you serve in the Marine Corps total?
4 years.
4 years, and then did you have to do reserves after that?
4 years of inactive reserve, which meant they could have called me up
at any time
if they needed to. But yeah, that's pretty rare.
All right. So, met Jill in high school, elementary school.
Yeah, I was 11. Yeah.
Okay. They were friends, and then life happened. Then he joined the Marine Corps, moved to California. Jill moved to California, and then after you left the Marine Corps, what did you do?
So I knew Jill and I I knew I wanted to be with Jill for the rest of my life. And I knew the Marine Corps wasn't the way because I was always gone.
Yeah.
I was always deployed or in a school or out in the field or gone somewhere. So I knew after my enlistment I was going to get out and go to college. While I was in the Marine Corps and home on leave one time, um, my dad said, "Hey, he knew several troopers in the area. We were born and raised in Mexico, Missouri, Audrain County."
Yep.
And he said, "You should go on a ride along with one." And he set it up, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds fun. I'll do that." So when I was home on leave, I did a ride along with a state trooper, and I knew right then what I wanted to do.
Right.
I knew that was the job for me. So got out of the Marine Corps, went to Columbia, and went to school at Mizzou. Graduated from Mizzou.
Yep.
And when I was on the verge of graduation, I applied for the patrol because I knew other people that had applied while they were in college, didn't graduate. They got the job, didn't graduate, and I wanted my degree.
Yep.
So I graduated, went through which is about a 12-month process for the patrol, and got on the highway patrol from there.
All right. And to jump in there, while he was on the highway patrol and living in Springfield, Battlefield, where I met him, and we were attending the same church. I don't know if you remember this, but I was lucky enough to go on a ride along with you one time. I think twice actually.
Yeah,
yep.
Twice.
And had some pretty interesting things seen, and got to experience some pretty cool stuff. So actually, that's what I always wanted to do. My whole life was become a Missouri State Highway Patrolman, but I am blind in my left eye.
Yeah.
And they said you can join, but you'd be like working the desk and
Right.
detective or something. You just couldn't do patrol. So I said, that's where the action is. So that's what I wanted. But anyway, I ramble on there. So highway patrol. How many years did you serve in the highway patrol?
So a little over 25 years on the patrol, and on top of my job, I was also on the SWAT team for over 22 years.
Yep, I remember that. And the SWAT team, I remember it was called, you were on CERT too, right? Critical Emergency Response?
It was the same, they called it CERT the first few years, and then it was confusing because they had, in some of the drills that we would do, like with the city of Springfield, where they were doing drills on, say, a large disaster, they had community action teams that were also called CERT.
Okay.
And it was quite apparent that we needed to change the name so it wasn't as confusing.
Yep.
And all the tactical teams were really called SWAT teams anyway, so they just changed it to SWAT.
So you were on SWAT, but over 25 years, and then working patrol and doing all those other special stuff.
Right.
And I've heard lots of stories about some of the things that you've seen and done. But then it came time to get promoted.
Yes. So you have to be on at least 5 years to get promoted to corporal from trooper. And right at exactly when I had my 5th anniversary, they promoted me to corporal, which was, I was in Springfield at the time and got to stay in Springfield.
Yep.
Which is really neat. That doesn't happen that often, where you get promoted in place. So I was a corporal in Springfield up until 2006, where they promoted me to sergeant and then moved me down here.
Okay. Down here is where we're at, Branson area right now, and you have been down here for 15 years?
Well,
you moved out of Battlefield.
Yeah, I've been down here for over 15
years. That is crazy. Me and Cort and another highway patrolman have been to several, well, not several, three. It's three.
Yeah.
Three is a few.
Yeah.
Supercross races in St. Louis. Well, funny story. You may remember this. I had rented a Cadillac, and
you're gonna get me in trouble.
Well, I'll try not to get you in trouble. But I had rented a Cadillac, and they had a buddy that worked in one of the cities that we were going through. And they said, well, we want to stop and see him, but we want him to stop us. So why don't you speed up and drive through this city pretty fast? So I said, okay. I'm driving. I got 2 highway patrolmen. They got credentials on them, so maybe if I do get stopped, well, it's the real deal. So,
And it worked.
and it worked. And we were flying through this city. I look in my rearview mirror and I go, well, your wish is true, because he's behind us with his lights on. And they turned around and they go, oh no, oh no. And I'm going, why are you guys saying, oh no? And they said, well, the plane got you. The plane got you, and we're not going to be able to help you in this one. So he pulls us over, and the patrolman comes up to my window and says, can you explain to me why you're doing this certain amount of speed through our city? I go, I can't explain that to you, but you might want to ask this guy. So he walked around and rolled down the window, and they got to talking, and we received a blessing that day because he let us go. So I don't know if I should say he let us go, but he did let us go. So that was a long time ago, though. That was probably 18 years ago, something like
long
that.
time
Yeah,
ago.
a long time ago. So you moved down here. You're a sergeant down here, right? Or that's what you were in this county.
I supervised the zone down here.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Now, how was it after getting out of patrol and then coming up and being the supervisor? Was it a different lifestyle, a different set of responsibilities?
So, if you're a zone sergeant, you still have, you still work the road like the other troopers do,
Yep.
and on top of that, you have the supervisory role. Down here, we had a large zone, eight people. So I didn't have to work in the smaller zones. The sergeant may be on by himself,
Okay.
certain shifts,
Yep.
or maybe have one other person. So he's doing all the road work and all the supervisory
I
stuff.
gotcha.
And we were fortunate enough that I had 2 corporals that helped, and then all the other troopers. So I still worked the road, still worked crashes, took calls, investigations, everything. But it was my main function. It was to make sure the zone ran properly and everybody had everything they needed.
Yep. We're getting. I mean, that stuff right there is exciting. We're getting to a more of an exciting part of this story here in a few minutes, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. But I do remember that you liked the car that was a California Special. Right? No lights.
Yeah.
No lights on top. So whenever I'd see one, and we were coming through Branson or whatever, I'd say, I wonder if that's Cort, and I'd try to see if it was you, and if it was, I was going to speed up. But now you also, 25 years, decided to retire.
I did.
All right. What were you going to do after 25 years of highway patrolling?
So Jill and I had gone to the retirement meetings where they plan out your retirement. So they let you know when you retire exactly what your pension is, and so you can kind of look and see, well, is this going to be enough? Do I need to work longer? And so our plan was to work. I retired in September of 2020, and just a couple of months before this, we had our last retirement meeting. And our plan was to work at least 2 more years, kind of beef up the pension a bit, and then retire. And we had just had this discussion. And I was eligible, August of 2020, I guess, to retire, but we were going to work longer. So, and that was the last discussion Jill and I had. Everything was worked out. So a security company calls me and says, hey, we're starting up this new thing. And we'd like to hire you for this. And they told me what it was going to be and what I was going to make. And I thought, well, I think I'm going to have to do this.
Right.
So I called Jill and said, hey, I'm going to retire. And she said, yes, I know. In 2023.
Right.
And I said, no, in 5 weeks.
Change of plans.
Right, change of plans. About 5 weeks from now, I'm going to retire. And I said, it's going to be great. Don't worry about it. I've got it all under control. And and so I retired September of 2020.
September of 2020.
Yes, and then I was going to start the job in just a few weeks.
Yep. So what I had heard that you were going to start like in November 1 or something.
Right.
I didn't know if that was true. That's just kind of what I had heard.
Yeah.
But life life-changing events occurred in that 30 days?
Well, one life-changing event.
One
for sure.
life-changing event, absolutely. So, Cort, I was telling you that may be watching, and those that may be watching 2 years from now, and motorcycle fanatic. I'm a four-wheeler guy. He's a two-wheel guy. We have been to Chadwick a couple of times, also riding, dirt biking, and I knew he was really good when he did a wheelie for about a mile at 60 miles an hour, and he passed me on my four-wheeler, and I knew he was good. So that's how we got hooked up and going to the Supercross races and all that. So he retires from the Missouri State Highway Patrol after 25 years. Life is great. He's going to be paid big bucks going to a security company, and life is grand. One day you're in Springfield, Missouri on your street bike by National Avenue, if I remember right.
James River by National.
James River by National.
Right in front of Thompson Cadillac.
Okay,
really.
Thompson Pontiac.
Cadillac.
Yeah. And you're on your street bike, which was a what?
Well, I'd always had sport bikes, and my last sport bike was a Suzuki Hayabusa, and I sold it knowing that I was getting this job. I sold it and bought a Yamaha FJR 1300, which is a sport touring motorcycle with the luggage on the side and the big windscreen and the heated grips, and it's a commuting bike. And I bought that for the purpose of commuting back and forth to Springfield for work.
For the new job.
Yeah.
So you're on James River. Speed limit on James River in that section is 60 miles an hour.
60 miles an hour.
And are you going to be all right to talk about this? Because I may not be.
Yeah. No, you can talk I have no memory of it. So,
So you're in traffic, but traffic had come to a stop.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there on your bike behind this other car, and speed limit 60 miles an hour. He's sitting there stopped, and a car takes him out, demolishes his bike, total carnage, devastation, whatever crazy word you want to throw in there. When did you wake up?
So the driver told the police that they were apparently on their phone, and according to witness statements, I have no memory. My memory stops about 15 minutes before this all happened. But apparently the driver never even let off the brake, so it hit me at a full 60 or more
probably
miles an hour, and I woke up. My first real recollection was several days later in the hospital in the ICU unit.
Now, first of all, this would be a good point in this video to say don't use your phone when you're driving your car.
Right.
You don't want to be the person responsible for something like this. And you guys know that I'm a man of faith. Cort is a man of faith. His wife is very strong in her faith. My wife is very strong in her faith as well. And we're going to transition here a little bit to medical issues and what happened and the stuff that he's gone through and how faith has been your strength, right? I mean,
it's always been my strength.
Always been your strength.
Not just for this, but I mean,
always,
my entire life.
Absolutely. So you wake up a few days later, you're in the hospital. Talk about that a little bit.
So I didn't know. I'll talk about my injuries here in a bit if you want.
Yes.
I didn't know where I was, why I was there, what had happened. And I had a breathing tube in. I had all kinds of tubes. My body was a disaster.
Yes.
I'd already been through a few surgeries, emergency surgeries, just to keep me alive. So I couldn't speak. Had no idea what was going on, where I was. But Jill was there, and a nurse was there. And I was trying to communicate with them and couldn't. And finally, they gave me something to write with, and I was trying to write down, question, where am I? And so the nurse said, the doctor said apparently told me I was conscious, I guess, at some point, here and there.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we've already told him. I don't know why he doesn't know where he is, but I had a traumatic brain injury on top of everything else. So Jill said, well, you've been in a motorcycle crash. You're in the hospital, and
Yep.
yeah.
So let's talk about some of the injuries. Are you game for that?
Yeah.
I can't remember all of them. There were so many.
I'll forget some of them.
Yeah.
I'll start from the top and go down.
Yep.
So I had a traumatic brain injury. I had bleeding on the brain in 2 different spots. My neck was broken, and it was a disaster. So they had to go in. Several discs were crushed, and they had to take those out, put in spacers. All the ligaments were torn. My head almost came off. It was bad. So they had 2 surgeons that had to get all that put back together whenever that surgery came around. Ribs were broken. My back was broken. So I had 3 fusions in my neck, 5 fusions in my thoracic spine. My spinal cord was injured there. My ribs were broken. My lungs collapsed. My kidneys failed. My right kidney was lacerated. My liver was lacerated. Spleen was lacerated. My aorta was torn, so my heart was torn and it was bleeding.
Yep.
Which is usually a death sentence. Had I not crashed,
right by the hospital.
I mean, you can see the hospital.
Right.
Had I not crashed right there, I would have died before they got me to the hospital. But I bled so much, I don't know how they kept me alive. And then I had a bunch of soft tissue stuff. Just looking at photos of the crash scene, you can see me laying in the meeting, and they had cut my clothes off working on me, and my feet were pointed in wrong directions.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's other stuff that I'm forgetting, but yeah, that was.
Now, did you break an arm, leg?
My lungs collapsed.
Lungs collapsed.
Yeah.
Man. I don't know if you guys can imagine that, but I can't imagine that. How horrific that would be. So that happened in
October 8th.
October 8th of 2020.
2020.
And then, how long were you in the hospital?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yep.
And I don't know if you can see it in that shot, but his walker is still here. So you still have ongoing physical therapy.
Yeah, the spinal cord injury is what's, the bones of all. Oh, my pelvis was shattered. They had to rebuild my pelvis
right,
too.
That's right. That was a whole other special surgery, if I remember right. I mean,
yeah, I had 6 or 7 surgeries, and that was the last one. The first, they had to get all the bleeding stopped. They had 2 surgeons that did the emergency surgeries to get me to stop bleeding. And then I think they fixed the neck, and then the spine, and then the pelvis was last. But yeah, I have a walker that I have to use if I'm going short distances. If it's a long distance, I have to use a wheelchair. But with the spinal cord injury, yeah, I don't have a lot of control in my legs. So.
Yeah, well, he's recovering, right? But I wouldn't mess with him before, and I still wouldn't mess with him. And he's on his way back, right? But his mindset from when I first met him through the first 18, 19 years, whatever. We didn't stay in close contact, we knew each other, and every once in a while we text, and he was living his life down there, and I had my life up there. But you guys were always, even during all this, always super involved in church.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to the faith part of this.
Okay.
So tell these people that may be watching this how your faith and your relationship with your bride of 30-some years has kept you going forward.
So God has always taken care of us, and I was always I've been a believer ever since I can remember. I grew up in the church, and God has always taken care of me, and I didn't always walk with the Lord like I should have. Really, until the time we moved to Springfield and started going to
Glendale.
And that's when I really started probably becoming the Christian man that I should have been, all along. But God has always taken care of me. Through the patrol, I had several incidents that were, critical. Could have been life or death, situations. And I've had a couple of times when I was pretty sure I was going to die. And especially on some of the SWAT things. But I just, I got to a point where, in order to be able to relax and do my job, I knew I was either going to win a confrontation,
Yep.
or I was going to go to heaven. So either way,
You win.
I was going to win. So I had no worries about
Yep.
any of it. But when I woke up in the hospital, I just remember thinking, they told me what all was wrong, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. But my first thought was, all right, well, let's get to work.
All right.
Let's start.
Yep.
Yeah,
I can believe you would say that.
let's start doing. And don't get me wrong. There were a couple of moments in time when I started to have a pity party, and I was like, let's not go there, and let's just get into the work and start doing rehab and
Yep.
and all these things, and just start building back up as much as we can, just to get. So whatever is my 100% possibility, it's not what it was before the crash.
Right.
So whatever my ceiling is in terms of being a good human being, a good Christian, whatever my physical state can be, I just keep working every day to try to get,
Yep.
as close to that ceiling as I can get.
Right.
But I always knew God would take care of us. And Jill is amazing, because when we, after 6 weeks in the hospital, I was basically confined to bed. I could get in a wheelchair and move around, but I had to use a slide board to get into the wheelchair, and very unmobile with the spinal cord injury. She was taking care of, I was doing a bedpan and all that, and she was taking care of me.
Yep.
All of my needs. She had to feed me everything,
Yep.
And she was a trooper and never even wavered.
Yeah. She's got that personality for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's in our wedding vows. When you find the right one, in sickness and health until death do us part,
Right.
is some pretty serious words. So
Yeah.
a little bit of encouragement there. Find the right one.
Yep.
And
she was in it to win it,
Yeah.
and was not going to leave my side. So, which is encouraging to me.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to watch God take care of things. I don't know why the crash happened. Where it's leading me, God has a purpose for everything, and everything is a purpose. But and we'll figure that out, where He's
Yep.
wanting me to go and what He's wanting me to do and all that.
Yep.
But I just know, like, even the financial part. So I was supposed to be making a lot more than I used to make with the new job plus my pension.
Yep.
But new job is gone now. I'll never be able to do that. So we just had the pension, and I had over $2.5 million in medical bills and everything. And of course we have insurance, but
Yep.
we still had tens of thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses.
Yep.
And it's just neat to watch God. I'm not smart enough to see Him working in my life today,
Yeah.
but a year from now I can look back and
Yep.
see, like, how He just blazed this trail for me.
Yep.
But so they started a GoFundMe page, and it was up for a short time and got a bunch of donations, and then there was someone copied the page and was trying to do some fraudulent thing.
Oh, I didn't ever hear that.
So they shut the page down after just a short amount of time. But it's just fun to see God work. So the amount of money that we were out of pocket, with all the medical bills and everything, was basically the exact amount of money that the GoFundMe
No kidding.
made.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
Just things like that are always,
Yep.
He's always providing, and and we've always given and tithed and all
Yep.
those things, and you just can't outgive
No.
what He's going to return to you.
Absolutely. Now, you had some strong support from the church you guys had joined down here too, didn't you?
Well, we had strong support from our church here, from the Highway Patrol family.
Yep.
from friends, from our families, and we had strong support from people I had never met,
Yeah.
or people I had met once or twice, that remembered me. Just a huge outpouring of support.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I remember, I don't know, a month or so ago when you guys came back to Springfield and visited Glendale.
Yeah.
And people were just like, even the doctors were like, they were some of the most excited ones to see you,
Yeah.
and we're super impressed with where the journey back,
Right.
your recovery.
Right.
And, yeah, nothing short of amazing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And still a lot of work to do.
yeah.
And I don't know how far I'll get in my progression, but we'll find out.
Well, you can obviously see where you were to where you are now.
Oh yeah.
I have seen pictures of the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And there's
nothing left.
No, it's unbelievable. I've never seen a motorcycle look like that. Just to be blunt. So.
Yeah, and I've investigated, I don't know, over 2,000 crashes as a trooper. And so I've seen trauma and traumatic injuries and everything, and I don't know that I've ever seen anyone that torn up that lived.
No.
So
You are a miracle. And I remember some short time after for you to even be alive, I told Jill that God had something special for you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what it is, and
Yeah.
I know you are too, and I know she is too. So.
Yeah.
Well, what would you share with anybody out there that isn't a believer? What would you share with them to try to encourage them to realize that God is real, His mercy and His grace is real? There is a heaven and there is a hell.
You're going to one of the
You're
two.
going to one of the two, and so there's two options, heaven or hell, in
Right.
life ultimate, right?
Right.
So what would you say to them that might give them the nudge to open their Bible for the first time, read God's Word, ask Him to share with them what He wants them to know? How would you do that?
It's a good question. I guess it depends on where they are in their life and what's going on with them. But I would tell you this: I don't know how anyone gets through life without Christ and without faith. And I just have that peace in my heart that passes, or that is beyond understanding. I just have that, and Jill has that. It's just, knowing what God has planned for me, regardless of what happens in this life. I know where I'm going.
Right.
I know where my home is. This isn't my home.
Temporary. Yep.
This is temporary, and I know where I'm going, and it's so freeing. I know a lot of people, look at the Christian faith and think, well, I don't want to be responsible or held accountable to God, or they may feel ashamed for the things that they've done. But if you ask Jesus into your life, all of those things that you have done to sin against God are forgiven.
Yep.
And all of the things that you're going to do in the future, all of it is forgiven.
Yep.
He paid the price for you in full
on Calvary.
Yeah. So that you can have, everlasting life with Him. And just, I don't know why anybody would pass up on that it's a free gift.
It's a free gift. That's all you got to do is ask.
There's nothing you can do to earn it. You just have to accept it.
That's right.
You don't have to do certain works and certain things. Of course, a Christian should want to, help and to serve, but it's nothing that you do on your own.
Yeah. Plus, no one has done anything so bad,
No.
so rotten, so miserable that you would not still be able, or wouldn't be able to accept God's grace and His forgiveness.
That's
it doesn't matter what you've done. If you seek forgiveness and ask Him to become your personal Lord and Savior and come into your heart, you are forgiven. So.
And some of the most devout Christians that I know are people that really had sketchy lives for decades,
Yep.
doing horrible things, and then came to a saving knowledge of Christ, and realized what they had
Yeah.
now.
Right.
You know, and I think that makes them appreciate it more.
I
It's
agree.
like being hungry. It makes you appreciate food more.
It does, and it makes you hungry for that knowledge more. You open your Bible and you read more, and you share time with other believers and Christians. So I couldn't have said it any better. So, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this and getting to know Cort and hearing his story. And excuse me, I don't know that any of us have ever gone through anything that like he's faced, but he's a strong witness that strength and desire and determination can make all the difference, and then having a strong faith in God. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. I dropped my remote here.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it, and thanks for letting us come down and spend some time with you. And we'll get home, bust out the board, and post this video so everybody else can meet you and hear your story.
Sounds good.
All right. See you soon. All right, we're back home, and it's time to bust out the board. Tell you what, it was good to hear his story and hear it coming straight from him. Cort is one of the toughest dudes I've ever met in my life, and mentally strong, physically strong, and just tough and gritty. So I know he's going to get back to where the new normal for him is. So today we're going to talk a little bit about grace and actually delve into what is grace, because there might be some people out there watching this that just don't know what grace is. Grace is given freely from God, given to who He loves. The cool thing about it is it's available to everyone. He loves everyone. You don't earn it. Nothing you can do will earn it for yourself. We certainly don't deserve it, and nothing you do can make you obtain it. It only comes from God, along with His mercy and His love. Some people find that hard to understand and say, that's crazy, that's just silly. Well, you're just silly for not believing it and not taking that step and opening that Bible and digging in and finding out that the truth does exist, and it's there available for you. You can't be saved without it. We talked in that video, there's a heaven and there's a hell. One choice. Follow God, accept Him as your personal Lord and Savior, have faith in Him, get to heaven. Don't. The other option is not pleasant at all. You can't be saved without it. How do you get it? You have to first understand that you can't save yourself. Nothing you can do will save yourself. Only God can. And you receive that grace by accepting Christ and having faith in Christ and accepting Him. It's not that hard. It isn't. It's not that hard. Once you start, you hear, you start to believe, and you understand, you'll find out that just how easy it really is. So thanks for tuning in. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, share it, please subscribe. And if you know anybody that isn't a believer, has doubts, has questions, send them a video link. We're talking about scripture and things of, God stuff in every episode. So send it to them, share it with them, like it, and please subscribe. So until next time, fan that flame, make it grow, focus on what's real and what really matters. See you next time.